All right.
We should probably stick something in to be like, hey, go support like Black Lives Matter and stuff.
Um, what I'd posted, I think is a really cool way of like specifically like George Floyd's family is what I'd found like because what I was thinking especially is that it must like suck to have like you're mourning a loved one and then it's just like everywhere. Um, so the a band that I really like, Beach Bunny, they made a song called George Floyd, and you can buy the song, and then all the proceeds go to his family, and it's on Bandcamp.
Oh,
So
okay, that's cool.
yeah,
Yeah, I would also say look into legislation changes and stuff being proposed by groups like Movement for Black Lives and stuff, and see what you can do there. But
okay,
yep, okay, cool. I'll probably stick that at the beginning, but
all right. I've been reading books again, which it's been a while since I've been like had time to devote to that. So I started this monstrosity. It's huge. It's my dad's favorite book. He was like, "Oh, you should read it." And I was like, "I've got time." It's a western, so I'm not sure. I do like westerns, but I've never read a western. I've only watched them.
I've read one western, but it was very short, and it was meant for kids. So
Yeah, this is different.
well, I say kids. It was a young adult novel, but it was a G.A. Henty book.
This one, like the first chapter, they're at dinner, and he's talking about how he had to leave a town because the whores wouldn't leave him alone. I was
I
like,
mean,
okay.
the main character killed his father, but you know,
My book's edgier than yours, John.
mine was ever so slightly racist.
Yeah, this one was giving off a little bit of those vibes too, where the main character. But I mean, like, it's weird because I'm like, oh, this is how they were back then. But like, should the character in the book be this way too? I know it's accurate, but like, he's also the guy we're rooting for.
Right? Yeah. It doesn't feel good rooting for him, even though it's accurate.
Should we start?
Yeah, let's start. Do you want to introduce it this time?
No, you can introduce it.
Okay.
I feel like we have a system in place.
All right, that's good. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to This Is a Terrible
Oh
Place to
no,
Live. I'm one of your hosts, John Bauer. Uh,
you're gonna alienate all of our Irish listeners that we got last week.
because I'm
Or last, not
speaking
last week.
a terrible accent.
Yeah, they're gonna be like, "Oh, this is a dumb American podcast."
I mean, it is though.
Well, I mean, like we sound pretentious in general, though. They're like, "Oh, these are the smart, snobby Americans." But if we start off with the redneck voices, they're gonna be okay. We can't. This isn't for us.
Fine. Okay. All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to This Is
Uh,
a Terrible Place to Live. I'm your host, John Bauer, with my co-host, David. Say hi.
if I have to. Hi.
Yes, you have to. And I'm going to speak like this for the rest of the time. Okay,
I'm
go
not
on.
gonna talk as long as you do this accent. You can just do. I don't even know what was that supposed to be like New Zealand?
Oh, I don't know. It was originally British, and then it morphed into New Zealand, and then it was just me being terrible.
Well, I mean, it was all over the place, but
Yeah, it was bad. It
which is worse because, see, we realized recently that we have such an international fan base. So then people from all over the world could be like, "You was trying to imitate my accent, and I hated it."
Whereas
All of our fans in South Africa, they're gonna be like, "Oh, that was a bad South African accent."
I don't remember seeing any South African listens.
All our friends in all the listeners up in Canada, they're gonna be like, "Thank you," and like that was a cheap joke.
It was a bad
Thank you
joke.
for not
It
laughing,
was a
but
very bad joke. It was not funny.
it wasn't.
It would have been a little bit funnier to me personally if you said all of the people in Canada would apologize for being offended. But,
Yeah, I feel like the joke there would have been more like, "Thank you for acknowledging us." People just forget about them.
who?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. I thought you were talking about someone, but then I couldn't remember.
No, the conversation moved on. Whoever it was, it couldn't have been important. What have you been up to?
I watched a lot of movies this week.
Oh, same.
I think like four. Four is a lot for me at the moment.
No, I've been watching like two a day.
Oh, no, and so did I. I watched three in one day, but I didn't start until yesterday, so.
Well, you said this week.
Well, that is
That's
this week.
no, but when you say that, it implies that it's been going on the entire week.
I don't know. It feels like this week has ended and restarted already, so I don't know.
It's Thursday, John. I don't know what you're talking about. It is neither ended or started at this point in the week. We're firmly in the middle.
I went into the office for the first time in over 3 months, and I did that on Wednesday. No, I did that yesterday. Oh, wait, yesterday was Wednesday.
It was.
I was thinking today was Friday. I did that yesterday.
Yesterday, I thought was Thursday while the day was going on. And then someone was like, tomorrow I've got this. And I'm like, but that happens on Thursdays. And they're like, yeah.
See, on Tuesday I thought it was Friday, and then on Wednesday I thought it was Thursday, and then all day today I've been thinking it was Friday again. So,
And I've had the numerical dates all messed up too. And it doesn't correspond with the days of the week that I think it is. Like, it was a mess.
yeah. Yeah. You said you watched a lot of movies though, like
Hmm.
two a day, so like 14 movies in a week, which seems
I can,
extreme.
I mean,
I am never going to catch up with what the world thinks I should have seen. Like literally everyone's like, "Have you seen this?" And it's a different movie, and sometimes I've never even heard of it. I will never be caught up enough to be a real film buff ever.
I think, well, if I tried, like if I only watched like classic movies, then I could get there. But like there are so many more movies that I find like interesting, like that are more recent, like I'm just like, oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
I could watch Jaws or I could watch this new movie by an up and coming director who's about to have a promising career. I'll watch this one,
Right.
not Steven Spielberg like in the 80s. Was it the 80s
Yeah.
that Jaws came out?
Oh, I don't know. I don't I don't remember. Jaws.
I feel like a lot of
75.
people I feel like a lot of people would be offended by that opinion. They're like, "Oh no, you've got to pay respect to the classics." But like,
I mean, I have respect for the classics,
yeah,
but like, I've seen some of them, and I don't know why some of them are classics. Like maybe
I
there
will be.
were reasons for it, but some of them they don't hold up.
I am planning on watching a lot more like old movies soon because HBO Max has like a classics selection. They've got lots of good old movies on there, like Charlie Chaplin and like
I love Charlie
uh,
Chaplin.
An American in Paris, A Streetcar Named Desire,
Yeah, yeah.
American Werewolf in London, like a bunch of those. So
I think the biggest hurdle for me is having to rent movies.
yeah,
I've just I've my parents never rented movies when I was growing up, so that just wasn't like normal for me.
Yeah, we just have the same VHS that we'd watch over and over again
Yeah.
until I knew every line to I mean, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory,
Exactly. Yeah.
not Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. That movie is gross.
Like we sometimes bought new movies, but most often we just got them from the library, which meant we watched the same movies over and over again.
Yeah. We got Water Horse like 5 times, even though Water Horse isn't that good.
Oh, Water Horse is a boring movie. Although if I was a kid, I probably would have enjoyed it more. But like, I kind of think I would have been bored more. Like that movie's mostly adults talking.
It was really strange because at the time that I like initially watched it, I didn't have like a super firm grasp on like the Loch Ness monster. So I was just like, okay, this is just like a weird animal. Like what's
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 so
happening?
interesting about this? Yeah.
Also, I
Uh,
didn't realize why he was hiding it. I was like, all right, why is it in your bathtub? Like, tell someone.
See that movie. I didn't see that movie until I was older, so I saw that movie when I was 19,
Hmm.
and I'm gonna be 22 this year, so that wasn't that long ago.
Wow, you're old, John.
I'm gonna pretend you didn't say that because that's weird.
Old man.
Oh no, I was gonna say is that movie is kind of just like a children's version of Pan's Labyrinth, but instead of
Ah,
having like an actual like message and like deep philosophical and theological viewpoints of Franconian Spain, it's just some kid and the Loch Ness monster, and it's like what is why I don't understand.
okay. So while we were talking about that, I pulled up the movies that I've watched since the beginning of this month. So on the first, I watched Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix and Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. Then on the second, I watched Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, both parts. Then on the fourth, I watched The Great Muppet Caper. Then I watched, on the fifth, I watched Toy Story 4 and Hannah Gadsby Nanette, the comedy special.
Mm.
On the sixth, I watched Thoroughbreds. Seventh, I watched Fantastic Mr. Fox. On the eighth, I watched 3 movies: Onward, Avengers Endgame, and Free Solo. On the ninth, I watched Jarhead and Bad Education. And then today, well, I watched one of these last night actually, but it was like after midnight that I logged it, so it says they're both today. I watched Laggies yesterday and A Serious Man today. So that's a lot of movies this month.
Hmm.
That wasn't particularly interesting. I shouldn't have listed them all. I should have just come up with a number and then said that.
I mean that's fine. I was just looking at what I've seen this this month, and it's 4 films.
You're you're a slacker, John.
I'm working all day. I don't. I'm not watching movies.
I have nothing to do. It's okay.
I
Uh,
did. I did see yesterday. Yeah, yesterday I watched the Ballad of Buster Scruggs and was rather disappointed with it. A-
it's
And
just
so
really
then
fun.
and then I was like, I need to watch another movie. So then I watched Enemy, and I was like, oh, that was really good. And then I was like, it's like midnight. I should go to bed. And then I was like, but this new Vast of Night movie looks great. And so then I watched that at like 2 a.m.
Well, so I haven't seen Vast of Night, but I want to. But the other two, Ballad of Buster Scruggs, I thought was really good. There were some that were like a bit slow, like the one with the miner. I was like, I don't really care about this guy that much. Although it looked really cool. That was really
Yeah,
like beautifully shot,
that
that
one was
one.
the one where I was the most like, oh, this is gonna go somewhere. But then I felt like it just kind of didn't.
Um, but the ones that I really did like were the titular one with him singing as he flies up to heaven.
Yeah.
Um, the one with the guy who's being hung on the horse, being hanged, not hung. That's the proper use, I've been
Yeah.
told.
Yeah.
I liked that one, and the last one was good too.
I thought the last one was the most interesting, but I felt like it could have been done a lot better if they had given themselves more time or less time. Like, it felt like they gave themselves a very awkward amount of time for it.
I think it. I was actually happy with the amount of time because at the moment where I was like, okay, this is getting to be just like a little, it's gone on like a little bit too long, is right when it stopped. So I was like, okay, good.
I don't know. I had figured out exactly who like the characters were, and I was like, oh, okay, I think this is what's going on. These characters represent this. And then it just outright said it, and I was like, oh, okay, great.
Well,
And then it just kept going and going, and I was like, oh, okay, okay.
what I appreciated about that one is that throughout like the other ones, you don't really get as much of like the classic Coen brothers obnoxious person dialogue.
Yes, the dialogue was fantastic.
The Coen brothers are so good at writing just the worst people to be around, where it's like, oh, this person's the worst, but it's really funny.
People are like ferrets.
I watched A Serious Man today, which that was actually one of my criticisms with that movie. Like the dialogue seemed like they were a little bit off their game compared to their other movies to
Did you
me.
like it?
I gave it 3 stars. I found that
That's acceptable.
while I enjoyed it, it didn't have a lot of purpose.
See, I think that is the purpose of that film. That whole movie is like about him trying to figure out what the meaning of life is. And the point of the movie is that there's no meaning, and it's just kind of like meaningless, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
I really like that movie a lot. It just kind of is and does, and it doesn't really have a point.
I did really like the long meandering story that the rabbi told about the thing inside the teeth. And then he's like, "So what happened?" And he's like, "I don't know. Who cares?"
Yeah. I do. I really like that movie a lot. But yeah, no, if it was one of those things where it's like I can't disagree with you for putting it 3 stars. If you don't enjoy it that much, that's like a fair rating for it.
Yeah.
I watched The Big Lebowski yesterday too. Okay, so those must have been on Wednesday because I watched The Big Lebowski yesterday, and I understand why that's like a cult classic.
I still need to see it.
Oh
I
my
opted to watch.
gosh.
Okay, so I had a choice like a while back. This was still last month, but I was like, okay, I'm gonna rent one of these two movies. I was like, it'll either be Fargo or The Big Lebowski, and I just did Eeny, Meeny, Miny, Mo.
That's
So I watched
fair.
Fargo instead.
I was actually going to watch Fargo, but Fargo is no longer on Netflix, and The Big Lebowski is still on Netflix in Canada. So
Fargo, the TV show, I think, was what was on Netflix,
the movie
and it
was
might
on
still be.
Netflix in Canada.
Oh, it was? Oh,
Yeah,
in Canada. I
but
see.
it's not anymore. So
I'm.
that was my original plan, and then I just changed it.
I don't know if the TV show is good, but I'm going to give it a try because I did enjoy the movie. I know it's not produced. I mean that it's not like directed or anything by the Coen brothers. They might have produced it actually.
Yeah, I was about to say I think they were producers on it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but it has like a good cast. Like Martin Freeman's in it. Mary Elizabeth Winstead, some other people.
yeah,
I
yeah.
think. Yeah, Steve Buscemi was great in Fargo. I'm. It's weird for me seeing Steve Buscemi in things because I always associate him with Spy Kids 2, That's always like the first thing that I think of. I'm like, oh, it's the scientist who's at the bottom of the volcano who has all the miniature animals.
I associate him with Randall.
Uh, well, see, I don't really as much just because you can't see his weird face when he plays Randall.
I'm trying to think. He was in something else that I saw as a kid that I think of from time to time, but it wasn't anything. It wasn't anything that's like that memorable.
But one of my favorite jokes in Fargo, though, was just commenting on how slightly weird Steve Buscemi looks, where the police are investigating him, so they're like interviewing these prostitutes that they had hired along the way, and then one of them says, one of them had kind of like a weird looking face, and the police says, "Weird how?" And she just says, "I don't know, just kind of weird." And it happens like a few times, but he's described that way.
I love Steve Buscemi, man. Yeah, no, he's in almost all of the Coen Brother movies.
Is he?
I mean, he's in Miller's Crossing and Barton Fink, and he's in Big Lebowski.
Just like all the ones I haven't seen.
Yeah, yeah. Is he in Lady
I'd be
Killers? I don't know. I haven't seen Lady Killers. I couldn't find it anywhere.
I'd be interested to watch some of their movies that they did with Sam Raimi, because like they used to collaborate like a lot, which I think is an
Yeah.
interesting pairing.
Yeah, yeah. They actually I was listening to a podcast and they were talking about how some of the bits in uh Raising Arizona are actually inside jokes with Sam Raimi.
I knew that because I saw an interview with Edgar Wright, where because Edgar Wright loves Raising Arizona, so he was like talking about it, and he talks about the shot where
They go
they
up the
like
ladder.
go all the way up the ladder,
Yeah,
and
that's
he
the
was
one.
like that they were competing to try and
Yeah.
have the most
The most
extravagant shot.
ridiculous looking shot, yeah.
And I think I haven't seen what Sam Raimi put forward, but I imagine it would be hard to top that one shot.
I don't know what movie he was making at that time. What movie was, let's see. Raising Arizona came out in 87.
Yeah,
So
something like
then Sam Raimi, what movie did you make around that time?
that.
Evil Dead 2.
Wow.
So he would have been making, it came out in 87, so probably around the same time.
That makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely a movie I have not seen. So,
The only Sam Raimi movies that I have seen are the Spider-Man
Spider-Man.
ones, and they're not good, so I don't know. Like,
Yeah, I'm looking here. I have not seen a single Sam Raimi movie.
do you want to talk about Enemy?
Yeah, I
So what are
loved
your
that
thoughts?
movie.
Okay, go
First
for
of
it.
all,
Take it away.
did you like it? I didn't see your rating.
I'm of two minds about that movie. On one hand, I really liked it, and on the other hand, I'm like, man, that movie was a bit pretentious and full of itself.
I mean, but that's kind of the thing with Denis villain no,
Villeneuve?
however you say
Villeneuve, yeah.
it. Sure. That's just kind of his thing, right? Pretentious and artsy.
Well, hang on. This is weird. You've got a bit of a double standard here, John, that I need to point out, as we've talked about this on multiple episodes. Your whole thing with Blade Runner 2049.
Is that it sucks.
You're like, it's okay now. Also, this is something you've done with the Coen brothers. You're like, that was a meandering movie that didn't really seem to have a point. And then with other ones, you're like, that is the point.
Yeah, well, yes, because with something like A Serious Man, that is the point of the movie. But with other movies from them, it doesn't feel like that's the point. It just feels like it's a mistake.
I don't know.
I rate things based on my emotions, David, not logic.
We all know that, John.
Yeah, I don't know. I liked Enemy.
That
Ah,
ending was such a just what? And then I was like, then I just thought about it for a long time. And I was like, I guess I don't know.
should we put a spoiler warning here for
Yeah, we can.
yeah, let's put a little spoiler warning for Enemy. So if you want to watch Enemy, which I suggest you do, go watch it and then come back and listen to our conversation so that you can see how much of an idiot I am. Um oh my gosh. Ah, I will say I am slightly irrationally afraid of spiders. Not like to the point of arachnophobia, but like I don't like them. And so that was quite unnerving. But it was so well done.
That was probably the best giant spider that I've seen in a movie. Like even better than like Lord of the Rings or
I'm pretty
Harry
certain it
Potter
was
or any
it
of
was
that.
a real spider.
That they just like made it look really big.
I think they just shot it like on a green screen and then composited it.
Huh.
Because
I'd
in
be
the
interested.
in the credits for the film there's a credit for spider handler.
Well, they have the spiders in the first scene that are stepped on.
That's true. I guess that could have been the credit, but I assumed that they meant like an actual spider handler on set.
That moment though at the beginning, I was like, oh boy, what am I in for? Whenever they go to a weird club and there's just ladies stepping on spiders. I was like, oh no.
Well, and then the rest of the movie is not like that at all.
Yeah. Uh, moment of appreciation for Jake Gyllenhaal. Like that guy.
Yeah, that's
He
fantastic.
first thing I saw him in was Prince of Persia. He has much better to offer. I saw something on Twitter where it was a side by side of Jake Gyllenhaal pictures, and it said Jake Gyllenhaal at the beginning of the decade, and it showed Prince of Persia, and it said Jake Gyllenhaal at the end of the decade, and it showed him in John Mulaney's special as Mr. Music in the kids show.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, I'm looking at the
which
VFX breakdown for Enemy.
which dare I say might be Jake Gyllenhaal's best performance as Mr. Music. He was also in Jarhead, the one that I'd seen recently, the Sam Mendes movie. Um, Daniel and I watched that over FaceTime, and I told him while we were watching it, I was like, "Man, Sam Raimi has no, not Sam Raimi. Sorry, Sam Mendes. Um,
Yeah.
too many Sams. Sam Mendes has range as far as war movies go, because this was not at all like 1917. It
I
was,
don't enjoy war movies.
I don't know. I'd say to give this one a try, but it's like very strange the style of movie it is, because it's sort of a comedy but in a depressing way, where all of the like jokes that they're making the whole time are just like kind of awful and very clearly to distract themselves from how miserable they are being out in the middle of the desert and Operation Desert Storm.
Yeah. I put it on my list because I saw that both of y'all watched it, and I was like, well,
Yeah,
maybe. I don't
watch
know.
it if you want.
So then instead, I went and watched The Big Lebowski.
I mean, I might have done that too. If I hadn't been
Yeah.
watching it with Daniel, I probably wouldn't have watched it. It was just like, oh, might be good. Sam Mendes is a good director. You're like, okay, you're right, he is. I'll watch it.
Yeah. I don't know.
Um, what have I been doing? Oh gosh, this whole thing has just made me more boring because I've got nothing going on in my life. I'm like, I tell people, oh, we should FaceTime. And I'm like, I don't have anything to talk about. You have to carry this entire conversation. Just talk at me. I'll be here soaking up social interaction, but
To
not contributing.
That's always what I've done though in social situations is just let everyone else do all the talking. So I don't I'm kind of at a loss now that everyone around me is done talking.
Really, it's a bad situation for a podcast. We're just like, we'll let the other guy talk.
I keep doing that. I keep bumping my watch list instead of my profile.
I've been thinking a lot about how bad the Speed Racer movie is and how I want to make a better version of that movie. And
Why?
oh, because Speed Racer is great. The whole running joke that we had about Speed Racer for a little bit that I've really forced,
Yeah. Yeah.
that was, I like legitimately, that was one of my favorite shows growing up. And I would love to like make a Speed Racer movie. The only thing that would stay the same as the one that has already been made is John Goodman would definitely play Pops Racer because that's perfect casting.
So you're really going to throw the Wachowski sisters under the bus and be like they failed that franchise?
Definitely. That was not good. They tried to like make it weird and modern, which like completely gets rid of the charm of Speed Racer, just like how incredibly retro it is, you know?
Yeah.
And I, which they were like, "Oh, this car has like all these cool gadgets and stuff. So what if we made it like futuristic?" Like, no, that's not the point. It's that it has all these cool gadgets and it's so far ahead of everything else that's around it. So if everyone has the gadgets that the Mach 5 has, then it's not cool anymore. It
Yeah.
was, yeah.
Well, I was kind of joking cuz The Matrix sucks and that's like the only other thing they're known for. So,
Oh, all the race sequences in that movie were so boring too, because like they do these like long, extended shots of the faces of the person driving, but like disconnected from the actual action of it, and it was just really bad CGI cars and weapons and stuff, where they were like, we're just gonna make everything just super over the top in a way that it doesn't need to be, and then the racing took up like way too much of the story and like the things that were going on in that were like corporate corruption and racing, and that was all that was happening. And then this one dude who's like, "Oh, I've rigged all of the races. I know who's gonna win the Grand Prix." And then Speed Racer's like, "But I'm gonna win it, even though you don't want me to." And that was the whole thing. And I was like, "This is so much more boring than the TV show, where people were getting kidnapped. They like found a bunch of Egyptians out in the middle of the desert, and they had to race them to like free Trixie from the Egyptians. They were actually like ancient Egyptians, and he
okay.
was racing them in a car. And
What?
there was like a clock, and he had to like get something from the top of a pyramid, and then like go back in time before the hourglass ran out. It was a whole thing. There
I
was a dude there was a dude who hated who hated cars because his son had been killed in a car accident. So then he was just out to destroy all the cars that he could. and he like would ride around on a horse with a cane and start whacking cars.
What?
This show is so good. It's like,
Bro, you're seriously gonna sit here and tell me there was a dude running around on a horse hitting cars with a cane and then say this show was so good?
that was one of the worst. That was like a weak episode, but I remember it because I was like, that dude's kid died. And I was like, I haven't learned to address this in children's shows yet. And then like Mr. Rogers came along and he's like, people die sometimes. I've got a puppet.
I mean, Mr. Rogers came along before Speed Racer, but
Before Speed Racer? I'm not sure about that.
when was Speed Racer?
It was like old. I think it was like the 50s.
Okay,
I mean, he
67.
was when Speed Racer, the show came out?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay, technically it predates Mr. Rogers by 1 year.
Thank you. I mean, they were going on at the same time in my life. Like, really? I was watching them both. But, like,
Yeah, yeah. That's fair.
also, he would like hire people to like break into Pops Racer's shop. They never explained why Spritle had a pet monkey. They weren't rich. They just had a pet monkey.
I mean, you could have a pet monkey and not be rich. You just might not be taking care of it very well.
No, it just seems like something that you should explain though. Like, why do you have a monkey? But they're always like, oh, Spritle, you and Chim Chim. And then Chim Chim's like, "Rah!"
Monkey's cool. Why does the man in the yellow hat have Curious George?
Well, that's all explained.
Well, sure. I
Oh, that's something
guess.
else that I really love. The Curious George movie, great movie. Do you like the Curious George movie, John?
I can't remember if I've seen the Curious George movie or if I just seen the show.
No, the show's not nearly as good.
I know
For
I've
two
seen the
reasons,
show.
and I'll explain it. A, David Cross is in it, and he does a great job. He's like the bad guy who's just like a super bratty like brother who is just super whiny about not getting enough attention, and that's like why he's the bad guy. And also, the Jack Johnson soundtrack is amazing.
We've discussed the soundtrack before.
Yeah,
That I know. I believe on the same episode we talked about Speed Racer before. We talked about the Curious George soundtrack.
I get in like a loop with just things that I loved as a childhood. As a child.
Things that you loved as a childhood. When
Yeah.
David was a childhood.
Also, best Disney song, hands down. I Want to Be Like You from the Jungle Book. Best one.
I mean, sure. I can't tell you what my favorite Disney song growing up was because
Well,
it was canceled.
oh, was it Zippity Doodah?
No, no, no. It's
Zippity Doodah was good.
it's the Jim Crows from Dumbo. Like
Oh,
now that I'm older, I understand why that's problematic, but the song itself in my memory isn't problematic and I loved it growing up. So,
that's how I feel about Song of the South. There were some good songs in Song of the South, hence the name. Um, like Laughing Place was a bop, and Zippity Doodah was a straight banger. Um, yeah,
yeah, I feel very awkward about how much I loved Dumbo growing up, but I sincerely did not know. Like I just
yeah.
did not. I was not aware.
We had like this VHS that was like a collection of Disney songs, um, and I'd seen Song of the South, but then we had this VHS like separately that was just like a bunch of them,
Yeah.
and it had a few songs on there from that. So then I just watched that a bunch, and I was like, oh, these are good songs. And then I'd like kind of forgotten what the movie was about. I just remember like the animated portions where it had Brer Rabbit, which those were the appropriate parts. The rest of it was not like good messages.
Yeah, I never saw a Song of the South. That's not something I have any recollection of.
See, we just had like a bunch of things around my house. Like we'd get stuff from garage sales, and I feel like my parents would only like kind of pay attention. Like they'd glance at the cover and be like, "Oh, it's animated. That's fine," for the most part. If it was like Cartoon Network or Nickelodeon or something, they'll be like, "Well, we don't want him becoming a Satanist." But
Yeah,
um,
it's very weird talking with I don't know, there's like three groups of people. There's like the people raised Christian, the people raised homeschooled, and the people raised Christian homeschooled. And
mhm,
it's very weird talking to people who aren't from any of those groups and having them be like,
yeah,
"Wait, your parents did what?" And I'll be like, "Yeah. Yeah, yeah, my parents didn't let me watch Beethoven because there was a bad guy." Like, duh. The B movie was bad because he said be Jesus at one point.
there are some things that like looking back, I'm like, yeah, that was actually like super weird. But at the time, like it seemed, hey, this is how people are raised. Um, we would be able to watch like one, no, two episodes of PBS shows every day. Like that was what we were allowed. So like we'd have to choose which ones we wanted though. So like some of my siblings would be in one room watching Zoom, and I'd be like, no, I've got to wait because I can't watch Zoom if I'm going to watch Zaboomafoo or something else. Well, Zoom came on after Zaboomafoo, so that wasn't a
Yeah,
good example.
yeah. I don't know. I watched Zoom, Zaboomafoo, and like George Shrinks, and that's like basically it.
George Shrinks. I've wondered a lot about that actually. Since I remembered him,
Yeah.
I've been wondering about like, was he always so small? Or did he actually shrink? Was he born small?
Oh gee. I don't remember
If
if there's an
so,
episode about that, but I do remember the first time he gets the supercar. So,
I mean, like, if he was born small, that might have been the easiest childbirth ever. Like, she didn't even notice that. Water breaks and he just slips right on out.
okay, so now I'm gonna Google was George Shrinks born small. It's the first option for was George Shrinks.
I mean, it begs the question. And if so, why? He has normal sized siblings. At least one. Does he have more than one sibling?
No, he has a very close friend.
Oh, wait, he's the only one in his.
He has a little brother who's a
Yeah, okay.
baby, who's a normal sized baby.
Yeah, I do remember that. And then his friend Sarah? Is her name Sarah? I feel like her name was Sarah, so I'm going to call her that. The only other name I could think of was Emily Elizabeth, and I know that's not it because that was Clifford.
That's Clifford, yeah.
Yeah. Also, all the characters on Clifford sucked. T-Bone and whatever that poodle was named, that stuck-up poodle, she was the worst.
This does not have an answer.
I feel like there wouldn't be a conclusive answer.
The George
And
Shrinks
the
wiki
George,
does not have an answer.
is it George Shrinks Wiki?
It's just the family basically.
And the George Shrinks canon. We don't know about his birth.
I'm confused by the first sentence on this wiki. It does not make sense to me. This is the sentence. George Shrinks, voiced by Tracy Moore, is the titular protagonist of the series Born Tiny Doll-Side.
It says born tiny.
Born Tiny Doll-Side.
I think it meant to say sized. Born tiny doll sized.
Okay, but that sentence doesn't make sense. He's the titular protagonist of the series Born Tiny Doll-Sized. That's not the
Well,
name
I
of the
think
series.
no, I think they just put the punctuation in a weird place. Like, you already know they're talking about George Shrinks. So they say, George Shrinks was the titular character of George Shrinks is implied. He was born tiny doll size. They just must not have put their commas in the right places.
They definitely did not. But that does appear to be the case, that he was born small.
I really wonder why. Is there like a history of that in his family? Was his grandfather also tiny? And that begs some questions too. How is he passing on genes
I
of that
just
size?
I just really like that the two biggest shows of my childhood are, one's about a giant dog and the other one's about a tiny human
Oh, George Shrinks Clifford crossover
with Flat
with just
Stanley.
even. I don't care about him.
You don't care
I
about
didn't know
Flat
that.
Stanley?
No, but like George Shrinks hanging out with Clifford, that would be wild. Because Clifford probably couldn't even see George Shrinks. He's so small.
Yeah. Man, that was a weird show.
It was. It was kind of like they were. Someone watched Stuart Little and they're like, "What if it was just a kid? What if it wasn't a mouse?"
Yeah, yeah. Oh, Stuart Little, man. What a
Do you ever think
weird.
about? You ever think about Stuart Little and the he's in the orphanage with all the kids, and then a family comes in and they choose a mouse over you. They're like, yeah, you suck pretty bad. We want a mouse rather than have you in our family.
But that's not even how the book is written. In
I
like
haven't read the
in
book.
the book, he's he's born to a human family.
Oh, he is?
Yeah.
Oh, that's like George Shrinks all over again, but it raises even more questions.
Yeah. At least I'm pretty certain.
Um,
Uh
oh man, I didn't read Stuart Little though. My family, we were the Mouse and the Motorcycle family with Ralph S. Mouse on a
yeah, yeah.
motorcycle. I actually, my favorite stuffed animal was named Ralph because of Ralph S. Mouse. Which
Those were good books. Those were decent movies for kids too. I don't know if you saw the movies based on that.
was there a Mouse in the Motorcycle movie?
Yeah, there's like a series actually.
I might watch that now. Actually, like
Yeah, I don't think it holds up, but as a kid I loved it.
we also watched The Borrowers a lot. We had that. Which, looking back, there are so many like well-known actors in that movie, The Borrowers. Um, Jim Broadbent plays the dad in that, and then like only recently did I put my finger on like what I recognized him from. I was like, oh, from Hot Fuzz. He's the greater good.
Yeah, yeah. I never
And then
saw that.
um, also the guy who would go on to play Draco in Harry Potter
Yeah,
is
Tom
like,
Felton.
yeah, he's like one of the kids in that. Um, there were a bunch of people in it,
I
and
find
then
it
the
really odd that you haven't mentioned John Goodman.
well, no, I was John Goodman's the obvious one. I've
Okay.
always known that John Goodman was in that movie.
Okay. I've never seen this
Uh,
movie, so
these are like the ones that I've realized recently. Um, yeah, that movie was something. um, there's this whole sequence where all of the borrowers are in this storage room at a like public office, and then they just attack John Goodman and they tie him up, and they like have an elevator that raises them up to John Goodman's eye level that they can talk to him, and then they just yell at him, "You've been seen, Bean," and they just leave him there, a broken man.
What?
Well, they call the human beings, they call them beans. Because the borrowers misheard it, they call them human beings. Um, but like the borrowers, they try really hard not to be seen. But then like this guy, he's like messing up their life. So they just take him down. They're like, "You've been seen, Bean." And it's said by Jim Broadbent, so it's like really good too.
That's so random and weird, but feels very. It does not feel out of place for the types of things that I remember from my childhood. So I believe
Also,
you.
there's like a weird race subtext with that movie, where like the borrowers who live indoors don't associate with the ones who live outdoors. They talk to each other and they're like, "So, are you an idiot, an innie or an outie?" And they don't mean like their belly buttons. They're like, "Am I? Are we from like the same social class?"
So I'm realizing this is making me think of the Minish from the Legend of Zelda game, the Minish Cap.
I haven't played it.
Oh, yeah, that's the only Zelda game that I've like completed. It was a Game Boy Advance game, but
I didn't get the reference, John. You've derailed this conversation.
I'm sorry.
See what happens if I make a reference you don't get. I just explain it at length, where it's like, this is so boring, but you need to understand. But if you make one, it's just like, all right.
I mean, I don't. There's not much to explain. It was a game. Like they didn't have like a lot of lore. I didn't. There's not really much to say about them. They're just little beings that live in tiny spaces around the map.
I feel like Zelda has a lot of lore, though, as far as games go.
I'm sure that one was a Game Boy game, so it was mostly just like it was mostly like a seek and find game.
What did you find?
It's been a very long time, man. I don't remember that game. That game is from like before Game Boys had color, probably.
I remember those. Not like I had one, but like the people that were like a little bit older than me had them, and I was like, those are really cool. I want one of those. But then like later I realized those weren't actually that cool. Like Game Boys were not good. Like
Okay, never mind. It was from 2004, so it was within my Game Boy career. Because the Game Boy Color came out the year I was born, so.
oh, okay. Let's see. What other weird movies did I watch as a kid? Um, Shenandoah. We watched that a lot.
I
It's
don't. Shenandoah?
it's a western that takes place during the Civil War, and really the only thing going for it was that it has the song Shenandoah in it, which is a great song. Um, really, all I remember is that there's this one guy who's like gotten stuck in the war, like he doesn't want to be there, but he'd been like taken to a prison camp and stuff, and then he's escaped and he's in the middle of this battle, and then some soldiers are like, "Here, you can eat with us," and he's like, "Oh, cool." He's like, "What am I eating?" And they're like, "It's horse." I was like, "Whoa, they're eating a horse?" Um,
It has James Stewart as in Jimmy Stewart as in
mhm.
the Jimmy
Yeah,
Stewart.
he's in it. Oh, also there's this one like really brutal scene where they massacre an entire family at their home. just like a bunch of soldiers come and kill them all, and like one of them's pregnant. It was like that scene messed me up as a kid. I was like, whoa, I shouldn't have seen this. With swords too. It wasn't like guns. They just like stabbed them. It was a
So,
ugh.
so I mean, since Jimmy Stewart is the Ben Stiller of the age before, does it have the one scene where he explains the point of the movie?
I don't remember that, John. I only remember the traumatic parts of that movie. Um, Charlotte's Web, we had that. Charlotte's Web, not a good movie. This is the animated one, by the way.
Okay, I was gonna ask you which one. You don't like
Yeah,
the
the one.
animated one? I mean, to be
No,
fair, I haven't seen it since I was like 8 years old. But
the best part of that movie when Templeton runs around the
yes.
circus and he's
Oh,
singing about
fair is
smorgasbord.
a wonderful smorgasbord, smorgasbord.
Yeah,
After the lights go down. Yes. It's a great song, and I know it. I know it. I always liked the
oh, I
goose.
made it. No, I was like, oh, well, you quit saying everything twice. It's annoying.
Double
I got
E,
played
double
for
I,
school.
double O, double E.
I was just like, I've got things to do. I've got a busy life. I'm 5. Like, I made a Benji reference the other day, and someone didn't get it. Like, you don't know who Benji is? And I was like,
I
this
ha-
dog, like,
I haven't thought of Benji in forever.
that movie was weird.
Weren't there multiple?
Mostly because they have what?
Weren't there multiple Benji movies?
Well, I'm only thinking of the original Benji.
Okay.
Um, Mostly what's weird about that movie is that they have like extended sequences building a romantic relationship between two dogs that don't talk. And I'm like,
That was a
what is
thing,
the point
though.
of it?
That was a thing. I don't like. Have you ever seen Milo and Otis?
No.
Okay, Milo and Otis is an entire movie about a dog and a cat that are friends and then get separated and then come back together and are friends. And they do talk, but not like really. It's like they think and you can hear them, but like it's like a full-on movie of just real animals.
Oh, I hated that. Those movies where like animals, you'd hear their thoughts. Like Thomasina. Oh,
Oh, like Journey
hated
Home and Long Journey and there were three of them. There was like Journey Home, The Unexpected Journey, and
that's what they call it when someone surprises you by playing Don't Stop Believin'. Like, that's the unexpected journey.
yeah, yeah. There was a lot of movies like that that were just really. I don't know. There was a fad. Also, like dog movies where like the dog saves the kids.
Yeah,
I
Benji.
and well, I talked about Beethoven earlier.
Yeah,
Beethoven.
oh, Beethoven sucked.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
Really, I've just realized that I don't like animal movies.
Yeah,
Like,
they
movies,
suck.
they're not, like, what's the point? I mean, like, I understand that people love their pets, but then watching a movie about how other people love their pets is so dumb to me. It's just like, why is this, why does this emotionally affect you?
But also, if you're going to do it, don't use CGI animals. It looks so bad, Harrison Ford. It looks so bad.
It's better than Thomasina, I will say, where you're hearing her weird thoughts about like Egyptian mythology and stuff, where she's like, we were worshipped in Egypt.
I don't think I've seen that one.
It's so terrible. Basically, this cat
Oh,
dies, and then she comes back to life after this trippy sequence of like her going to the Egyptian afterlife and seeing the cat goddess Bast, and then she comes back and like can't remember her past life. She's been reincarnate, and then everyone like recognizes her, and she's like, "I don't remember." It's not good.
it sounds really stupid.
My mom and sister would watch this movie, and I would. I would get up and leave. I'd be like, this is so dumb.
See, that's the kind of, my mother would never let any of us watch that because it, there's an Egyptian god in it.
Yeah.
That's probably why I didn't know it existed.
Also, one of the main characters is thought to be a witch for a long time. She's not, but she's thought to be one. And there was an extended sequence of a gypsy circus with like a bear fight. Um,
There's a lot of things that don't age well.
yeah, and they fully like lean into the stereotype of like gypsies stealing your children. They're like, this guy's drunk and he might kidnap them.
Everything did.
I watched Ben-Hur a lot.
Oh, I did too.
Ben-Hur.
I thought Ben-Hur was R-rated, and then I realized it was not, and that's why I was allowed to watch it.
Oh, that scene where they were on the boat and they got the hammers going on the drums and it was like battle speed. I just that would get me so pumped when I was a kid. I was like, yes, ramming speed, ramming speed.
It's been a long time since I've seen Ben-Hur, so I probably shouldn't say what I'm thinking because I don't know how problematic that is.
Go for it. No one listens to this, John.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know. I think Ben-Hur was like a slight gay awakening because there's a lot of hot men in that movie.
It is true that Charlton Heston is just going around with his guns out the whole time.
It's yeah. Like I said, I don't remember very much about it. It's been a very long time, but like I do remember that there's hot men in it.
I remember after having seen that movie, I was like, oh, that was a great movie. And then, like later, I was talking to my papa about it. I was the next time I saw him, and he was like, oh, that is a really good movie. And he was just like talking to me about it. I was like, oh, this is really cool, because it was like probably the first time that like we'd had like a shared interest because I was a little kid and this was my grandfather. So like, I was like, oh, this is really neat. And then he was like, and that chariot scene at the end, when they were filming that, one of the guys fell off and he legitimately died, and they kept it in the movie. I was like, why did you tell me that? Like, I don't want to know that. I'm a little kid. Like, I watch all of this and I'm like, these aren't real people. I don't think about it. I don't think about them making it and the consequences that have on people's life.
Yeah, that's actually not true though.
Oh, it isn't?
No, it's false.
I believe that to this day.
Yeah, I did too, and then I was having a conversation about it. Like when they did the remake of Ben-Hur, I was talking with my brother-in-law about it, and he mentioned that fact, and I was like, that can't be true though. And then I looked it up, and it's not.
I wonder how that rumor spreads. Or they're just like trying to spread hype for it. They were like, this movie's so hardcore, we've got a real person dying in it. And everyone's like, wow, I guess we have to watch it now. Otherwise, it'd be disrespectful to his memory.
I mean, there is kind of an unspoken rule for a lot of stuntmen that if they get hurt doing a stunt and it's good enough to go in the film, then you use that one. Like I know like a lot of stuntmen have like especially people who do movies not like with union or whatever that are just like doing their own thing, they have like if you get hurt, you use that take.
Yeah.
Because it's like they did it, they were willing to do it, so let's honor the fact that they actually did it and use the take.
It's going to be the most realistic one because it actually happened.
Yeah, like oh, what is that? What is that movie with the Lonely Island guys did? There's a biker that like jumps a ramp and hits a truck.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. It's on my list.
That actually happened, and that guy like broke his collarbone and was rushed to the emergency room right after, but they used that take.
See, I used to think that like breaking your collarbone was like super serious, But then, like, I had a friend who was at summer camp with me, and he broke his collarbone while he was there. But then for like, we didn't know that at first. But then for like a few days, like, he would walk around, he'd be like, oh, like my, it's just like really like messed up, like right here. It hurts real bad. And this went on for days before like we realized that he'd broken his collarbone. So I'm like, is it that bad? Because he was like doing stuff
Yeah.
for quite a while. I don't know. Maybe he's just like ridiculously has a ridiculously high pain tolerance.
I think it's probably different also like how badly you break it, cuz like
Yeah,
if you shatter it, like that's got to be way more painful than just like snapping it.
yeah, I guess so. Um, watch The Sound of Music a lot.
Yeah, actually probably the movie I watched the most growing up was Anne of Green Gables.
We had that, but I was like, nah, I'm gonna not gonna watch this. This is boring, and it was
I
very
like Anne
much.
of Green Gables. Like
I
to
don't
this
care about her
day.
problems. She's like, my hair is green. I'm like, just get over it. Like, who cares? And then she's like, I got my friend drunk. I'm so sorry. I'm like, who cares? Like,
I don't know. I liked it. I still like it. I think it has some of the best lines.
such
Just
as.
well, it's been a long time since I've seen it, but I still quote things like 5 pounds of brown sugar.
Also, I remember the scene where she walks across the ridgepole of the roof. I was like, she's so stupid. I hope she dies. Like, I hope she falls off. Like, just like she shouldn't be doing that. She's so dumb. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of things I watched growing up were actually like TV series that we had on VHS.
Yeah, because we had like the double VHS of Anne of Green Gables, and then there
Yeah.
were like three different double VHSs.
Yeah, because there's Anne of Green Gables, Anne of Avonlea, and there's a third one.
It's like the one where she comes back and she's like a nurse in a war or something.
Yeah, yeah. I don't remember that one's what that one's called, but
I'd always like
oh, that's
watch like
Return to Green Gables is what that's called.
I'd watch like the first half of these movies, then leave, like go play, and then come back in like right at the end. That's what would so I'd have like just a chunk missing.
Whenever we were sick growing up, which now that I'm thinking about it, was a lot. Kids must get sick a lot. Either that or my family was weirdly sick all the time. But like whenever we were sick, we would like watch Anne of Green Gables and like Christie. I don't have you ever seen Christie?
No.
Or that's I don't know. Christie's a it's about like a missionary in the mountains. It's weird. It's quite weird. And the Waltons. Have you ever seen the Waltons?
I've seen some of the Waltons,
Like
not very much though.
we watched the entire series of the Waltons just like back to back on VHS.
There were a bunch of things that we'd watch specifically at our friend's house because for a long time, like when my sister was born with like birth defects and stuff, my parents would have to go to Dallas a lot, so then we just stay with our friends. And then there was like a whole different set of things that we'd watch over there. Like all the Herbie movies, we watched The Apple Dumpling Gang, Pete's Dragon. Um, it was nice because it was like, oh, we don't have these ones at home.
Yeah.
That was really I really appreciated that about like growing up when I did that like you had to own it to like watch it because like I think you formed like a deeper connection to like the movies because you'd be like
Oh
I
yeah.
have this one. This is like the one that I like own and relate to because I watch it so
I
much.
rewatched movies so much. Yeah, absolutely. I
Whereas
definitely
now, I feel like the kids that are growing up with like streaming services, they're not going to have like that same relationship to movies. It's just like, oh, I saw that once. It was on Netflix.
I don't know. I mean, my nephews watch a lot of TV and they always want to watch the stuff they've already seen. I think it's a kid thing to be to like the thing you like and just want to see it over and over and over again. Just like kids like playing the same game over and over again. Like it's just if it's fun, then why not do it again?
Yeah, kids are stupid.
It's so dumb. It's yeah, no, I was stupid. I I know every line in the Cars movie almost. Like if not like I couldn't say it to you now, but like if you
Uh,
put the DVD in, I could like quote the whole movie.
I remember when Cars came out because we had actually had trouble with our like van. It broke down by the side of the road, and then I was talking to the guy who like brought the tow truck, and he was telling me that he'd gone to go see Cars with his daughter, and it was the funniest movie. And then I just nagged my parents incessantly. He said it was the funniest movie. I have to go see it. Like the tow truck driver said so. I have to.
Someone was like I told someone that I could quote Cars and they were like, "Oh yeah, how does it start?" And I it took me like 5 seconds and I was like, "I know exactly how it starts."
How it starts is like the easiest part.
Yeah.
Speed. I
am
am
speed.
speed.
Meow meow meow. One winner.
One winner.
499 losers. Meow 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 meow.
And then it's got that Sheryl Crow song playing.
Boom boom boom. Hey Lightning, you ready? Oh yeah.
I
Darn it.
love I loved that Sheryl Crow song when I was little. I was like, this is so cool.
Yeah,
Uh,
I didn't see that movie in theaters because it came out the same year as Over the Hedge, and like my parents were like, "We saw Over the Hedge. We don't want to go see Cars now. We already saw one movie for the year."
I saw Over the Hedge in like a dentist office in the waiting room. I was like, I missed the beginning. Not sure what's happening, but boy, is this funny.
See,
Slapstick comedy.
Over the Hedge is like one of the first 3 or 4 movies I saw in theaters, and so it has a special place in my heart because I don't know, I love it so much.
I've been told by my parents that the first movie I saw in theaters was The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring, because even though I was like a baby, I wasn't even one yet. They like couldn't get a babysitter, so they brought me when they went to go see it. So like, yeah, that was the first movie theater you were in.
One of my nephews, the first movie they ever went to was Split.
Ah, that's not a child friendly movie.
They were too young to remember anything. They were like
Okay,
less than a year old.
okay. I was just thinking, imagine if you were like 3 and you saw James McAvoy hunched over in a corner eating someone's guts. Oh,
Yeah.
I thought I was messed up by the movies I saw. Just like, oh, The Prince of Egypt, that one.
Oh yeah. Banger,
That
man.
movie, the way it starts is just so intense with them in slavery and they're just like singing their hearts out. And the ending of that first number is just like, whoa.
Ah.
I remember being jump scared by when they lay the brick that
Yeah.
starts that
Yeah.
song.
Yeah. I I jump scare so easily that I find movies that don't have jump scares, like horror movies that don't have jump scares, to be not scary. Like
Were you scared at all by Midsummer?
no. It was disturbing. I wasn't scared.
Yeah.
Like I saw It, the first one, and I was like, this movie isn't scary. And then I saw the second one, and I was like, this movie is objectively less scary, but there were 2 jump scares, and they hit me. So
I still haven't seen either of them.
They're okay.
I've heard that the first one was like super hyped, and then the second one, people were like, Bill Hader was good, and I was like, so the rest of it wasn't.
I mean, yeah, it was okay. I would say there's Stephen King, and I I only know a few people who really really love Stephen King, um, but they're the exception, not the rule. Stephen King makes subpar books. That's why he's so prolific. He just writes things and releases them. Like they're
It's,
okay.
which is, I feel like, why Shawshank Redemption was like, this is fine. But some people love it. It's the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also, I was talking with my dad about him the other day, and my dad was like, yeah, he also wrote Stand By Me. I was like, I didn't realize Stand By Me was a Stephen King thing.
Yeah. Yep.
There's so many movies based off of what he writes.
He
Like,
is
I don't think
he
any,
is the most adapted writer.
I mean, it makes sense. Like,
There's
there's
also
so many.
multiple versions of almost everything that's been adapted.
Yeah, it's nuts. Imagine having even written that many books that could be adapted, and then still having so many more that aren't.
Yeah. Yeah. He has, let's see, like The Mist has
Hmm.
the movie by M. Night Shyamalan. Hello, John from the future here. Just to say, I'm not exactly sure why I thought The Mist was an M. Night Shyamalan movie, but it is definitely not. It is a Frank Darabont film. I believe I was confusing it with The Village. I just wanted to make that correction because I listened to this during editing and heard myself say that and was like, well, why are you an idiot? So there's that correction. I say a lot of stupid stuff in this episode, but this will be the only correction. And then it also has a show on Netflix now. It
I think
had
I
a
saw a
show
trailer for that. Yeah.
in the 80s, and then it had the movies. The Shining had the movie, but then he didn't like the movie, so he made a show that's objectively worse.
Then there was Doctor Sleep based off the sequel.
Yeah. And then there's all the things you didn't realize were based on Stephen King novels.
Well, I mean, you left out other things like Scream and Pet Cemetery and Dark Tower.
Yeah, Dark Tower
Or the
and Pet
other.
Cemetery both have multiple adaptations. There's just so many things. It's like I don't understand how you could make a quality product with all of those
I
different.
wonder. I really wonder if he was like artistically fulfilled by it too. Just like, I've just got to keep writing. This is like my drug, you know?
Yeah, I kind of feel like Stephen King is to books what M. Night Shyamalan is to movies. He just makes a bunch of them.
M. Night Shyamalan hasn't made that many. He's made like a bunch, but he's had like a long career. But I feel like he has like,
Like they made one good one and everyone was like, "Yeah, keep going. I'd love to see where you go." And then they were like, "Okay, cool. Here's some shit."
hang on. Thank you very much. M. Night Shyamalan made two good movies. The Sixth Sense and Unbreakable was very good.
I haven't seen Unbreakable, but like fine.
Unbreakable is a good movie. Although some people like Signs, I don't get that. And I feel like The Village is probably the most divisive of his movies because people either love it or hate it.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm looking at the books Stephen King has written and I'm realizing all the ones I've left out, like Carrie.
Yeah. Oh, you know what I feel like would be a more fair comparison? Saying that Stephen King is to books what Steven Spielberg is to movies.
Well, but
Because
Steven
hang on,
Spielberg's actually decent most of the time.
Steven Spielberg is like generally very good, but he has some duds in there too. But I'm saying like he's just like very prolific and like people just adore him, you know? And he has like that sort of cultural thing around him. everything that he's like made has like such like iconography, you know what I mean? Just like where if you see something that's like Stephen has a Stephen King feel, like you can instantly like place it. Like, oh, this feels like a Stephen King movie. The same for Steven Spielberg, where his
That's
movies.
fair. Because Stephen King has written, according to Google, at least 97 books, and Steven Spielberg has made at least 132 movies.
That's insane.
So, I guess that's fair.
I want to watch his first one, Duel, the one that was like a made-for-TV movie, and then like got super popular, so then he had a career.
Yeah.
Because I've heard it's very good, because it's just really weird. That it's like this dude in an 18-wheeler following this guy for a really long time, and it just gets super tense. That's a cool idea. Like,
Yeah. It could be interesting. I don't know. I didn't. I'm not huge into Steven Spielberg, to be completely honest.
I'm trying to think like what his best movie would be in my opinion. Maybe the second Indiana Jones. I mean, not the second, the third. Not the
Okay, I
second.
was about to say,
Yeah,
how dare you? No, yeah, the third one's probably my favorite of the Indiana Jones movies. So,
the fourth one is definitely his worst movie.
did he even make that?
He did.
Oh,
That was
well,
him.
it
That was
sucks.
Steve.
Stevie. Okay, here's the question. He didn't direct this movie. Oh, he did direct Lincoln.
Yeah.
Did not
Um.
realize that.
Whoa, he's an actor in 104 films. I can't think of what. No, okay. It says here that Steven Spielberg directed 47 movies.
I was Googling. I wasn't on Letterboxd.
Okay. So, yeah, it's Jurassic Park, Jaws.
It was pulling his producer credits from 132 films.
Oh, okay. Oh, Catch Me If You Can might be one of my favorites of his. That was a good movie.
I have not seen it. I know it's one of those ones that everyone's like, either like it's amazing and you have to watch it, or like, don't bother. So it's just on my list for some point.
No, I'm not one of those people. It was just like enjoyable. Um, Looking back, I actually really did like Ready Player One.
I enjoyed it. I saw it twice.
I did too.
I think it had a lot of flaws looking back that I didn't see when I first saw it, but I did enjoy it.
Um, Something that I was thinking about because I watched Avengers Endgame, um, quite recently, is that Avengers Endgame is actually quite similar in the way that it relies so
Yes.
much on you knowing other things. So then it's like, oh, look, you have to like it because you like get it, that thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just in case you haven't seen Avengers Endgame for any reason, and you care about it, spoilers, I guess. So, yeah.
And
When I saw Endgame, I was like, "Oh, look, it's the thing."
but I think I liked Ready Player One more because it wasn't so self-congratulatory about it. Like Avengers Endgame was so painfully like, look at how great we are because they knew it was going to be the biggest movie ever. They're like, they were just like, so just it frustrated me. I was like, they're so full of themselves. I hate this.
Yeah. Yeah. They Endgame was a slog for me, but I found it funny at times in a way that other Marvel movies, to me, it's like this humor is so boring. and then other times during Endgame, I was like, oh my gosh, fuck you, just shut up already. But Ready Player One never made me feel that way. Like there were times in it where I was like, okay, that's a little cliche, or like, I can't handle how dumb this is. But like, it never made me want to just be like, fuck you.
The first hour of Endgame was so boring. I was like, you should have just made a 2-hour movie. You had all these other movies setting it up. Why is this movie so long?
Well, and the parts of Endgame that I really liked were the parts nobody cared about and like didn't get any like love. Like I really liked like that they introduced Smart Hulk, like Professor Hulk, who's a great character, and then they were just kind of like, yeah, he exists, I guess.
Yeah.
Here, have him eat a taco. Isn't that funny? I was like, what? You're just gonna introduce Professor Hulk and then be like, I guess he's cool, whatever.
Oh, something that they teased in the trailer and then was just super lame in the movie was they're like, oh, Hawkeye's Ronin now. I was like, oh, Ronin's cool.
Yeah,
and then they just like didn't do anything with it.
That's the equivalent of the Amazing Spider-Man 2 being like, he's gonna fight Rhino, and then having it end the exact same way the trailer did.
Yeah.
And it was like, come on now, seriously? Like, oh yeah, he's Ronin for 5 seconds. You don't also even see him do anything good. His movement in those scenes is terrible. His sword is wobbling. It's bad.
The whole thing with Hawkeye being like super upset about his family the whole time, I didn't care because I was like, does he care about his family?
There's never been a time where it felt like he cared about his family.
He's gone all the time, it seems like, and he never mentions them. Like,
well, and like it had like the Avengers at his house in Age of Ultron, and it was just kind of like, everyone was like, wait, you have a family? You have kids? What?
Yeah.
Since when? And then it was just like, oh yeah, some of us knew this, but we didn't care. Like,
and then they tried to like have the whole thing where he's teaching his daughter how to use a bow, and it's like, oh, because Hawkeye's a girl later, so we're setting it up, and it's just like, this is so boring.
There was a lot of like, get it? This person's gonna be like replacing them. It's just like.
I fell asleep the first time I tried to watch it on the plane, and then this time I was like, I might fall asleep again. Like, it takes so long to start doing anything, and then once it does, it's like, we're not gonna stop for 2 hours. And you're going to be exhausted by the time we're done with this.
I will say I didn't feel like it was 3 hours when I saw it in theaters, but I did fall asleep during the first act.
It's impossible not to.
Well, the first act is so boring. The first act, I don't even remember anything about it except for that it opens with a really dumb gay inclusion thing. And I was like, what the fuck?
Oh, and that whole thing where Tony Stark talks to his dad for so long, I'm like, this is not good. Like, cut this. This is what needs to be cut out in the editing room, and it can be included in like the Blu-ray extended like special features. And you're like, oh,
and then
he could have talked to his dad for 10 minutes. We missed out.
They didn't even follow their own time travel rules. Like, they spent like 15 minutes trying to explain how time travel doesn't work the way it does in other movies, and then they ignored it completely. They just completely ignored it. Like at the end when Captain America comes back and is like old, like it completely undid their like whole thing about how doing things in the past doesn't change your future because the timeline will be a different timeline. Like,
yeah, he shouldn't have showed up in that timeline ever again.
Yeah, he should have just been gone. If they had wanted to have him like come like press a button and come back to the like that time and be like, I'm staying, and then like go back, they could have, but like he can't just show up there. He's not there.
Oh, we might should have spoiler warned this because I took this long to see it, so maybe there's someone else who has.
I'll stick one in. I thought about that already.
Um, Also, the whole thing with Nebula, where Nebula like goes to that time, I was like, didn't they like? Why didn't she tell them that Thanos was out there, the same place at around this time?
Yeah, I don't. Why didn't she
And
mention
then
that they were looking for this exact stone that they're going to pick up?
why does she like like why does she have like a Bluetooth connection to the other version of herself? Do they have that set up in her technology in case there's another version of you, you'll have a link?
I don't think it was a link to her. I think what it was is they were connecting to the same network automatically for like what runs her and then interfering with each other. I didn't have a problem with them being
Well,
connected.
see, if she's connected to some network that Thanos has set up, then once she goes rogue, can't he just like turn her off? Like all the
Yeah, no, that part doesn't make sense, but like that's what they were saying, yeah. The main thing that doesn't make sense is why she didn't just go back as soon as she recognized that they were there instead of like getting caught. Like
yeah.
Hawkeye already went back, or whoever she was with. Who was she with? Was she with Rhodes
Um,
or Falcon?
no, no, because Rhodey doesn't come back because he disintegrated in
Oh,
uh,
right.
Infinity War.
Who was she with?
Well, no, because Black Widow and Hawkeye were
Yeah,
together. She was with War Machine.
that's
So you got
Rhodes.
the black guys confused.
War Machine is Rhodes.
Oh,
So she was
I
with
was thinking,
Falcon.
well, you said Falcon, you said Rhodes or Falcon, and then I thought that you'd slipped up.
Oh, no, yeah.
Okay,
Rhodey Rhodes is
yeah.
War Machine. So she was with Falcon. Although that I don't
No, she
remember.
wasn't with Falcon.
She
Falcon
wasn't.
did disintegrate.
Oh, okay,
She
gotcha.
was with War Machine. That
Okay,
part was right.
okay, cool, cool. Yeah, no, I don't remember anything about what he did. Did he do
Also,
anything
did War Machine do anything?
in that movie? Did he do anything that entire movie?
No, no. He's
Did
just kind of
Falcon
there.
do anything in the? I remember he hit someone with a wing, which was cool, but like he does that every time he's on screen.
He he did hit someone with a wing, and then Captain America gave him a shield
Oh yeah, that was cool.
at the end.
Look, the first MCU movie I ever saw was Winter Soldier, and I thought it was too violent because that was before I like got into actually watching real movies. I was like, it's so violent. Oh my gosh.
Oh, the first one I saw was the first Captain America
But like, okay, well technically the first one I saw was the first Avengers movie, but I didn't see it all the way through because
because you were distracted by the violence.
no, I was watching it on a laptop and it ran out of batteries. Um on a road trip with some friends. So no, but yeah, no, the thing about that movie was that one thing that I pulled from it that I was like, oh yeah, that's a cool character, is I really like Falcon and would love to see more of him. But like every movie, it's just like, here I am, gonna smack some people with these wings and then disappear for 2 hours.
Also, I thought it was something that bugged me was they bring back Gamora, but it's not the one who died. It's like this other one
It's
from a
the
different
Gamora who
timeline.
lived.
Yeah. So then Star-Lord sees her on the battlefield and he's like, oh, Gamora. And he's so happy to see her because he's like deeply in love with her. And I was like, oh, like poor guy. Like this isn't the person that he fell in love with. It's a different version of her. And then that moment was played for laughs. I'm like, that's so dumb. That's like just mishandling the characters that you've set up. She's like, oh, you mean I fell in love with this guy? Idiot. And then she like kicks him in the nuts. I was like, what? Like, what are you?
I don't even remember that scene because it obviously was not important.
It's just in the middle of the giant battle at the end. And that's all they do to address it. I'm like, that would like emotionally like mess him up.
There's
And then,
literally everything that has ever happened to Peter Quill in the MCU should have messed him up.
Yeah, I don't know. It just felt like a cheap moment. Like I was like, that could have been played so differently, and it would have been much more impactful.
I don't know. They did his character a lot of wrong in Infinity War in general.
Well, and then Endgame, where like they see him at the planet where they get the Infinity Stone, and he's like dancing, and then War Machine's like, "Oh, so he's an idiot," and Nebula's like, "Yeah, he's an idiot." I'm just like, what? Like, everyone likes this guy. Why is all of his screen time in this movie devoted to just like tearing him down?
Yeah, I think the charm of him is that he's not an idiot. He just copes with the terrible life he has by being really happy-go-lucky all the time.
Yeah,
It makes his character really deep, and then everyone in those two movies is just like, you dumb asshole, and he's like, yep, that's me.
which I think is the problem with like having these big crossover movies where they're the directors that direct the solo movies, like the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. James Gunn like understands the characters and what to do with them. And then they're like, okay, so we'll let you borrow Star-Lord, put him in your big movie.
Right.
And then the Russo brothers are like, we don't care. They just smash him against the ground and hand him back to James Gunn. It's like if they had a toy and they're just like, we're going to beat it up and hand it back to you.
Right. Like I never cared about Thor. I never cared about Thor until
Like in
Thor
Ragnarok.
Ragnarok.
Yeah.
And in Thor Ragnarok, he becomes the most powerful person in the entire MCU. Prove me wrong. He's the most powerful being in the entire MCU at the end of Thor Ragnarok. And then they're just like, we don't care.
Yeah. It was, they did Thor so wrong in this movie. Also because like they made him just lame. And then they were like, okay, so for the whole time travel thing, we could have him go back to like any point. Let's send him back to Thor the Dark World, the one that everyone hated. Let's
Right.
just like leave him in that one.
Let's send him back to a film that looked like it was trying to be an art film and felt like it lasted 4 hours long.
I was so surprised. Oh, go ahead.
I have unfortunately seen that movie 3 times, and I hated every second of all of the watches, except for
Oh, the
like,
Dark World?
yeah, the Dark World. There is like one good part, which is like when they actually team up and then Loki dies. Like that's a decent portion of that movie, but like it's like 5 minutes long.
Oh, also, I appreciate that the ending to Thor the Dark World, where they're like, oh, you know, it'd be so cool if we made it like Loki was ruling Asgard, but like disguised. I really appreciate that Taika Waititi was just like, no, that's stupid. I just completely undid it.
I think he had a better grasp of the character though.
Yeah.
Like he was just kind of like, I mean, he wouldn't really do
No, I
that.
like that he did that. But
Yeah.
Loki doesn't actually care about. See, because he doesn't care about power. He just likes causing chaos.
Yeah.
Like once he gets power, he's just like, I don't need it. It's just fun to like chase it.
Yeah. Yeah. He's one of those people where it's like he had to die and actually stay dead at some point, but like it's still like the MCU lost one, you know? Like one of the few things that made people come back.
Yeah. I don't know. I think really what they have going right now is I will see the next Thor movie. Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, I was going to say Guardians.
And Spider-Man. Those are the ones that I'll keep watching. Other than that, I really don't care that much.
Yeah, I don't know. I was excited when they announced that they were finally making a Black Widow movie, and then the trailer came out, and I was like, oh my gosh, I could not care less about this freaking PG-13 Deadpool. Like, I will not go see your feminist PG-13 Deadpool. Like, I don't
Um,
care.
Something that I found is at first, like when I first like started watching Stranger Things, I was like, ah, David Harbour is like great. He's like the
Yeah.
best part of this.
Yeah.
And then everything he's been in, I'm just like,
Sucks.
why? Why?
Yeah,
Like he needs to
same.
get like a better agent or something, because he's not in like interesting things
Well,
aside
the
from
the
Stranger Things.
problem is that they keep casting him in roles that don't fit his comedy.
Yeah,
Like like he's comedic in Stranger Things, but it's a very specific type of comedy. And like in everything else I've seen in him, like him in, he's like a slapstick, like I don't know, over the top, like cartoonish joke, and it's not good. It's not him at all. Like he
you
needs
know,
to be semi-serious and semi-grounded to make sense.
to bring it back, he'd be really good in a Coen Brothers movie.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
It's a
I'd
shame.
wa- I'd watch that. Yeah.
It's a real shame. I heard that they're not making movies anymore, but I don't know if that was confirmed or not.
No, well, at least Ethan may not be, but I know that Joel is making the Tragedy of Macbeth with Denzel Washington.
Oh, okay. Huh.
This is like the first one in like forever that he's making by himself. So
We'll see.
yeah, I think Joel has like traditionally done like more of the directing, and Ethan's done more of the writing.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't know, it'll be different. But I'm interested to see it for sure. It sounds really good, and
Yeah.
it's gonna have like Frances McDormand in it and everything. Like
Yeah, I'll definitely watch it. Like
I think that was supposed to come out like this year or next year. It's probably delayed, but like
everything was supposed to come out this year. Oh my
oh,
gosh.
this year was gonna be the best year for movies, and I'm
I'm so
disappointed.
sad. I'm so sad. We were gonna get Last Night in Soho.
We've done this. It
Uh,
there are more there are more important issues going on,
that's true.
but in my privileged life, this is what I have to be upset about.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a good stopping point, I guess. It's kind of a downer, but
Yeah, it's a good spot to hop off.
all right.
We should probably stick something in to be like, hey, go support like Black Lives Matter and stuff.
Um, what I'd posted, I think is a really cool way of like specifically like George Floyd's family is what I'd found like because what I was thinking especially is that it must like suck to have like you're mourning a loved one and then it's just like everywhere. Um, so the a band that I really like, Beach Bunny, they made a song called George Floyd, and you can buy the song, and then all the proceeds go to his family, and it's on Bandcamp.
Oh,
So
okay. That's cool.
yeah,
Yeah, I would also say look into like legislation changes and stuff being proposed by groups like Movement for Black Lives and stuff and see what you can do there. But
okay,
yep. Okay, cool. I'll probably stick that at the beginning, but
all right. This has been a very long episode, and if anyone has made it to the end, I'm surprised. We're not that interesting.
thank you if you have. If not, fuck you because you'll never hear this anyway.
Yep. Unless you listen to it in parts, and then like,
Still thank you though. You made it.
well, I mean, it took you a while. We don't extend the same love to people who aren't fully committed.
That's fair. But
Yeah.
like you get like a partial love because you listened
Uh,
to a partial episode.
I'll give you a handshake. You won't get a pat on the back, though. All right, bye.